Every single day we wake up with a choice to let life happen to us or to happen to life. And while the world may try to define us by its noise, its pressure, and its pace, the truth is, the most powerful voice we'll ever hear is the one we speak to ourselves. In a world that constantly challenges our worth, our dreams, and our direction, what if the greatest transformation doesn't start out there, but in here? What if the first step to building a better life is building a better inner dialogue? Today, I want to share with you 9 things to tell yourself daily, not empty affirmations, but purposeful reminders rooted in clarity, responsibility, and hope. Because when we learn to lead ourselves, to truly lead ourselves, with honesty, with courage, and with discipline, then and only then can we rise above our doubts and step into the life we were meant to live. I am in control of my response, not everything around me, is a powerful declaration of self, leadership, and emotional intelligence. Life throws countless unpredictable events our way, setbacks, challenges, unfair treatment, and sometimes even outright chaos. These moments are often beyond our control. What people say, what the economy does, how the weather behaves, or whether we're recognized for our efforts, these things are external. But within that sea of uncertainty, there's one constant, one power that is entirely ours, the power to choose our response. It is natural to want to control everything. We want results on our timeline. We want people to understand us, to treat us kindly, to meet our expectations. But the truth is, when we anchor our peace to external things, we become reactive. We're always on edge, waiting for something to go wrong, or for someone to disappoint us. In this mode, we hand over the keys of our emotional well-being to forces we cannot manage. And that's where frustration, anxiety, and resentment are born. The real shift comes the moment we realize that while we cannot dictate the external, we can always choose how we show up internally. Choosing our response doesn't mean we suppress our emotions or pretend everything is fine when it's not. It means we pause, we observe, we breathe before reacting. In the space between what happens and what we do next lies our growth, our maturity, and our strength. It's not about denying the chaos. It's about not letting the chaos control us. Think of a storm. When a storm hits, trees that are rigid and stiff break. But the trees that bend, that flex with the wind, survive. Being in control of your response is that flexibility. It's the ability to stay grounded when everything else shakes. You don't lose your values, your focus, or your self-respect just because circumstances get tough. You train yourself to respond with intention, not impulse. This mindset also reshapes how we view people. Someone cuts us off in traffic, we can scream, or we can choose to let it go. A coworker criticizes us, we can get defensive, or we can listen with curiosity. A friend disappoints us, we can dwell in anger, or we can choose compassion and healthy boundaries. The more we practice this, the more we protect our peace. And not just that, we become leaders, examples to those around us. Because in a reactive world, the calmest person in the room becomes the anchor. It's easy to respond with frustration. It's tempting to respond with blame. But real power is quiet. It's measured. It's the person who keeps their dignity in a heated conversation. The one who sees beyond the insult. The one who doesn't let their day be ruined by a stranger's bad mood. That kind of control isn't weakness, it's discipline. And it is built over time through awareness, reflection, and the repeated choice to rise above the noise. Sometimes people confuse control of response with passivity, but it's not about being passive. It's about choosing your battles wisely. It's about responding from a place of strength, not fear. If someone mistreats you, you don't tolerate it. You address it. But you do so with clarity, not chaos. You don't escalate, you elevate. This mindset is also crucial for personal growth. When we face failure or criticism, our automatic response may be to retreat or react defensively. But when we pause and own our response, we gain insight. We grow, we adapt, we shift from "why is this happening to me?" to "what can I learn from this?" That shift is where resilience is born. That's where true self-confidence is forged, not in controlling outcomes, but in mastering your own behavior in the face of them. Imagine waking up each day and saying to yourself, "Whatever comes my way today, good or bad, I will choose who I want to be in the face of it." That's a powerful way to live. It doesn't mean you'll never feel upset, hurt, or confused, but it does mean you won't be ruled by those feelings. You'll use them, reflect on them, and decide from a place of wisdom. This daily reminder is not a cliché affirmation, it's a commitment. A commitment to yourself. A declaration that while you cannot always choose your circumstances, you will always choose your character. You will always show up with intention, and that, more than anything else, determines the quality of your life. Progress is more important than perfection. This simple truth, when embraced fully, has the power to transform how we approach goals, relationships, careers, and even our own sense of self-worth. Too often, people fall into the trap of waiting to be ready, waiting for things to be perfect, waiting for the timing to align exactly right before taking action. But perfection is a myth. It's an illusion that keeps us stuck. What actually moves us forward in life, what truly builds success, is consistent, messy, flawed, courageous progress. When we aim for perfection, we often set ourselves up for paralysis. We overthink, we hesitate, we fear judgment. We tell ourselves that if it's not done flawlessly, it's not worth doing at all. But the truth is, nothing worth doing is ever done perfectly the first time. Mastery is not born in a moment, it's built through repetition, failure, adjustments, and small steps. Every expert, every innovator, every great leader you admire began as a beginner. They made mistakes, learned from them, and grew not in spite of those mistakes, but because of them. Progress honors the journey. It accepts that you don't have to know everything today. You don't have to be the best. You don't need to have every detail figured out. You just have to show up. You just have to take one more step than yesterday. That is where the magic happens. When you focus on progress, you build momentum, you create habits, you stretch your limits and surprise yourself. You realize that what once felt impossible now feels natural. And all it took was refusing to quit. Perfectionism, on the other hand, is rooted in fear, fear of failing, fear of looking foolish, fear of being rejected. It convinces us that unless something is perfect, it has no value. But ironically, that mindset leads to procrastination, anxiety, and underachievement. It turns us into spectators of our own lives. We wait, we stall, we edit our dreams until they are safe enough to never be attempted. But life doesn't reward the perfect. It rewards the persistent. Those who fall 7 times and rise 8. Those who are willing to be imperfect and still show up fully. When you measure yourself by progress, you give yourself permission to be human. You learn to celebrate the small wins, the 5 minutes of meditation, the one healthy meal, the difficult conversation you finally had, the single page you wrote for that book you've been meaning to finish. You stop dismissing these actions as insignificant, and you start seeing them for what they really are. Proof that you are growing, that you are showing up for yourself. And over time, those small acts compound into big results. Focusing on progress also helps you develop a growth mindset. Instead of thinking, "I'm not good at this," you begin to say, "I'm getting better at this." You reframe your failures as feedback. You stop defining yourself by your shortcomings and start defining yourself by your willingness to evolve. This kind of mindset is contagious. It inspires others. It encourages a culture of resilience, learning, and humility. Think about a child learning to walk. They fall down dozens, even hundreds of times, but no one says they're just not cut out for walking. We cheer their efforts. We celebrate each tiny step. That same grace, that same patience should be extended to ourselves. Just because your journey doesn't look perfect doesn't mean it's not powerful. Every setback is a lesson. Every challenge you overcome makes you stronger. Every time you try again, you reinforce a truth that you are becoming, that you are growing, that you are not done yet. In a world obsessed with curated images and flawless presentations, choosing progress over perfection is a radical act. It's a declaration that your worth is not based on being error-free, but on being courageous enough to keep going. It's a mindset that says, I will not wait to be perfect to begin. I will begin, and that is how I will become. So remind yourself daily, progress is the path. Perfection is the distraction. Be bold enough to try. Be kind enough to stumble. Be wise enough to learn. And be committed enough to keep moving. Because that next step you take, no matter how small, matters more than the perfect plan you never execute. I deserve to take up space and be heard is not just a motivational phrase, it is a fundamental truth that challenges the limiting beliefs so many of us carry deep within ourselves. For years, perhaps even since childhood, many people are conditioned to shrink themselves, to stay quiet, to not speak unless spoken to apologize for having needs, opinions, or emotions. Over time, this conditioning creates a damaging narrative that our presence is an inconvenience, that our voice doesn't matter, that our ideas are not good enough. But living like that is not living fully, it's merely surviving, and you were not born to shrink. You were born to expand, to contribute, to lead, to express, and to be. To take up space means to allow yourself to exist unapologetically. It means walking into a room and not questioning whether you belong. It means recognizing that your story, your experiences, and your perspective have value because they do. You don't need permission to be yourself. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. Worth is not something we earn through performance. It is something we claim by simply acknowledging our humanity. Many people, especially those who have experienced rejection, criticism, or environments that silence them, carry an invisible weight. They hesitate before speaking up. They downplay their successes. They defer to others even when they have something meaningful to contribute. But this behavior doesn't come from a lack of ability. It comes from a lack of self-acceptance. And the first step toward reclaiming your space is reminding yourself daily, you have a right to be here. Your voice matters, your thoughts are valid. When you tell yourself, I deserve to be heard, you begin to dismantle the false narratives that kept you small. You stop viewing your needs as burdens and start viewing them as boundaries. You stop seeing your feelings as weakness and start recognizing them as signals. You realize that expressing yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Because when you speak your truth, not only do you set yourself free, you also give others permission to do the same. Taking up space is not about arrogance or dominance. It's not about being loudest in the room. It's about being rooted in your identity. It's about showing up as you are with confidence, authenticity, and grace. You don't have to pretend to be someone else to be accepted. The world doesn't need another copy. It needs your originality, your unique light, your unfiltered voice. There is power in presence. Think about the people who inspire you the most. They likely aren't perfect, but they are real. They speak with conviction. They show vulnerability. They stand firm in what they believe, even when it's unpopular. That's not because they never doubt themselves. It's because they learned to act in spite of doubt. They've chosen to believe that they belong in the room just as much as anyone else. You deserve the same. You don't need a title to be valuable. You don't need a platform to have influence. Wherever you are, your life is already speaking. Your energy, your values, your compassion, they all make a difference. When you speak up in a meeting, when you set a boundary in a relationship, when you advocate for yourself or someone else, you are practicing the art of taking up space. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. One of the most healing things you can do is stop apologizing for who you are. Stop minimizing your wins. Stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Your life is not a debate. You don't have to justify your voice to anyone. The right people will respect you for being real. The wrong ones will be uncomfortable. But that's not your responsibility to fix. Every day, remind yourself, I am allowed to be seen. I am allowed to be heard. I am allowed to say no. I am allowed to take up space. In conversation, in relationships, in decision making, in every room I enter. Because I am not here by accident. I am here on purpose, with purpose. When you affirm this daily, you begin to rewire the beliefs that once held you back. You begin to show up differently, more boldly, more intentionally, more freely. And as you do, the world around you begins to respond. Not because it changed, but because you did. You chose to take your place. You chose to speak up. You chose to believe in your own voice. And that, more than anything, is the beginning of true empowerment. Failure is a stepping stone, not a dead end. It's one of those truths that sounds simple, but when you're the one in the middle of a setback, it can feel anything but comforting. Still, this perspective is one of the most powerful shifts a person can make in life, because failure, while often painful and humbling, is never final unless we decide to stop trying. It's not a reflection of our worth. It's not a verdict on our future. It's feedback, information, and an essential part of the path to any meaningful success. In a world that glorifies winning and highlights only the outcomes, it's easy to believe that those who succeed did so because they avoided failure. But nothing could be further from the truth. The most impactful leaders, creators, and visionaries are not those who never failed, but those who kept going when they did. They saw their missteps not as signs to quit, but as opportunities to learn, adapt, and build resilience. They didn't avoid failure, they embraced it, studied it, and used it as fuel for growth. This mindset doesn't come naturally. From a young age, many of us are taught to fear failure. We're told that mistakes are bad, that getting it wrong means we're not good enough, and that failure is something to be ashamed of. But real life doesn't operate that way. Growth is messy, learning is non-linear. Progress includes falling flat, getting back up, and trying again. Smarter, tougher, and more determined. When you view failure as a stepping stone, you start to shift the internal dialogue. Instead of saying, I'm not cut out for this, you begin to ask, what is this teaching me? Instead of retreating in shame, you lean into curiosity. What went wrong? What can I do differently next time? What strength did I gain by going through this experience? These are not easy questions, but they are the ones that lead to wisdom. Because every failure carries a lesson, but only for those willing to look for it. Consider anyone who's ever done something extraordinary. Behind their highlight reel is a long road paved with rejection, doubt, trial and error, and failed attempts. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Oprah was told she was unfit for television. Walt Disney was fired for lacking imagination. These stories aren't rare, they're the rule. The difference is that they didn't let failure define them. They let it refine them. When you begin to see failure as a stepping stone, your fear starts to lose its power. You stop avoiding risks just to stay comfortable. You realize that falling short is not a catastrophe, it's part of the creative process, part of personal evolution. In fact, it's often in our lowest moments that we discover who we really are. Not when everything is going smoothly, but when we're tested, stretched, and forced to rebuild. This perspective also brings freedom. When you're not paralyzed by the need to be perfect, you give yourself permission to try new things, to take that first step even if you're unsure, to speak up even if your voice shakes, to pursue the goal even if the odds feel stacked against you. And in that space of courage and imperfection, growth thrives. That's where you discover what you're made of, not by winning, but by rising after the fall. And let's be clear, failure still hurts. It's okay to feel disappointment, frustration, even heartbreak. But don't unpack and leave there. Feel it, process it, and then move forward. Let the experience strengthen you, not shrink you. Let it deepen your empathy, sharpen your strategy, and fuel your comeback. One day, the story of your life will include chapters of failure. That's inevitable, but those chapters won't be the end. They'll be turning points, moments where you made a choice to keep moving, to keep believing, to keep showing up. That choice, again and again, is what builds a life of impact. So every day, remind yourself, failure is not the opposite of success. It's a part of it. It's a necessary detour, not a dead end. And each time you stumble, you are one step closer, not further away. Let failure teach you, not define you. Let it break the ego, but not the spirit. And most importantly, let it be the reason you rise even stronger. I am grateful for what I have and excited for what's coming. This simple mindset, practiced daily, holds the power to completely transform your emotional well-being, perspective on life, and even your results. Gratitude grounds you in the present, while hope propels you into the future. Together, they form a powerful combination, a mindset that balances contentment with ambition, peace with purpose. Gratitude is not about ignoring your problems or pretending everything is perfect. It's about shifting your focus from what's lacking to what's already abundant. It's about recognizing the blessings that often go unnoticed. The breath in your lungs, the people who care about you, the lessons you've learned, the opportunities you've been given, the resilience you've built. When you learn to appreciate even the smallest things, life starts to feel richer, fuller, more meaningful. You stop chasing happiness as some future destination and begin to find it in the here and now. Gratitude changes the way your brain processes information. Studies show that people who consistently practice gratitude have better mental health, improved sleep, stronger relationships, and even physical health benefits. Why? Because gratitude redirects your attention. It quiets the noise of comparison and complaint. It reminds you that no matter how hard things may be, there is still good to be found, and that good is worth noticing. But gratitude alone isn't enough. The second part of this affirmation, being excited for what's coming, is equally vital. That's where your vision lives. That's where your goals, dreams, and potential stretch ahead of you, pulling you forward. It's the belief that your current situation is not your final destination, that better days are ahead, that the future is not something to fear, but something to look forward to. Being excited for what's coming doesn't mean you're unhappy with the present. It means you recognize the beauty of growth. You're proud of how far you've come and hopeful about where you're going. That excitement becomes a form of energy, a fuel that motivates action, creativity, and persistence. It pushes you to keep striving, not out of desperation, but from a place of deep belief that your life still holds more joy, more purpose, more connection, more discovery. Together, these two mindsets, gratitude and anticipation, create a powerful emotional posture. They keep you balanced. Gratitude anchors you, reminding you that you're already enough, already worthy, already blessed. Anticipation inspires you, reminding you that your best days are not behind you. They're still unfolding. This combination keeps you from living in regret or fear. You don't cling to the past or panic about the future. You live in a state of grounded optimism, This mindset also changes how you approach challenges. Instead of seeing obstacles as evidence that things aren't working, you begin to see them as part of the process. You can be grateful even in difficulty, not because the pain is pleasant, but because it's shaping you, refining you, preparing you. And even in hard seasons, you can still be excited for what's coming, because storms don't last forever, because every chapter leads to the next, because growth rarely feels good while it's happening, but it always reveals its purpose in time. This way of thinking also transforms your relationships. When you're grateful, you become more present with people. You listen more, you complain less, you value the moments, and when you're excited about what's coming, you bring an energy that uplifts others. You stop draining people with negativity and start inspiring them with hope. You become someone who lights up the room, not because your life is perfect, but because your spirit is alive. Start each day with this simple reminder: I am grateful for what I have and excited for what's coming. Say it when you feel strong. Say it when you feel broken. Say it even when you don't believe it fully, because saying it consistently begins to rewire your mindset. Over time, you begin to live from a place of calm confidence. You no longer wait for life to be perfect to feel joy. You no longer fear what's next. You begin to carry peace in the now and purpose in the next step. This mindset doesn't ignore reality. It honors it. It simply chooses to see both the beauty in the moment and the possibility in the future. And when you live that way, you begin to experience a deeper sense of fulfillment because your life is no longer defined by what's missing, but by everything that's already meaningful and everything that's still possible. I am in charge of my happiness and mindset. This simple yet powerful affirmation holds the key to reclaiming your personal power. It is a reminder that your emotional state is not determined by the world around you, but by the perspective you choose to hold within. Far too often, people unknowingly give away control of their peace to circumstances, other people's opinions, or the unpredictable flow of everyday life. But when you take responsibility for your mindset, you begin to see that happiness is not something you wait for. It's something you cultivate. Life is unpredictable, people disappoint, plans fall apart, bad days happen, but your response is always yours. That is the secret. While you can't control what happens to you, you can always choose how you interpret it, how you let it affect you, and what meaning you attach to it. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending that pain doesn't exist. It's about stepping into emotional maturity, recognizing that your peace isn't handed to you, it's created by you. Happiness doesn't come from achievements, possessions, or validation from others. Those things might give temporary satisfaction, but real happiness, the kind that sustains you, comes from within. It comes from knowing who you are, honoring your values, living with intention, and choosing thoughts that support your well-being. It comes from self-awareness, self-discipline, and self-respect, and it begins with a decision to no longer be a victim of your thoughts. Your mindset is like a lens through which you see the world. When it's clouded by negativity, everything appears darker. But when you shift your lens even slightly, you begin to notice possibilities, lessons, and moments of beauty that were there all along. Choosing a positive mindset doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means choosing to look for solutions instead of problems, growth instead of setbacks, gratitude instead of complaints. Taking charge of your mindset also means becoming aware of your self-talk. That quiet voice in your head that narrates your life has immense power. If it's constantly judging, criticizing, or doubting you, your confidence will shrink. But if it's encouraging, forgiving, and empowering, you'll begin to thrive. The words you say to yourself every day are either building you up or tearing you down. So speak to yourself like someone you love. Because the way you treat yourself sets the tone for how others will treat you and how you'll navigate life. This mindset also means establishing emotional boundaries. When you know you're in charge of your happiness, you stop allowing other people's chaos to invade your peace. You realize that you don't have to absorb every negative emotion thrown your way. You can listen without taking it on. You can be kind without being controlled. You can care without losing yourself. Emotional strength is not about being hard, it's about being clear. Clear about what you'll allow, what you'll tolerate, and what energy you'll carry. When you're in charge of your mindset, you also take full ownership of your habits. You understand that how you start your morning affects your whole day. You pay attention to what you consume, what you read, watch, and listen to. You surround yourself with people who lift you up instead of drag you down. You prioritize rest, movement, and activities that align with your goals. And when things go wrong, you don't spiral, you reset. Happiness is not a constant high. It's not always smiles and sunshine. Sometimes it looks like resilience. Sometimes it looks like choosing calm over drama, faith over fear, discipline over distraction. Sometimes it's found in quiet moments, in deep breaths, in doing the hard things that your future self will thank you for. And the more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. Like a muscle, your mindset strengthens with use. By reminding yourself daily that you are in charge of your happiness and mindset, you stop waiting for life to change and start becoming the change. You stop blaming and start creating. You stop reacting and start responding with intention. You no longer let your emotions be dictated by other people's behavior or life's unpredictability. You anchor into something deeper, your power to choose. This is freedom, not the kind that comes from external circumstances, but the kind that lives within, the kind that no one can take from you. Because when you master your mindset, you master your life. And when you choose happiness, not as a reaction, but as a way of being, you become unstoppable, not because life is perfect, but because you are rooted in peace no matter what it brings.